I could introduce you, but I think it would be better for you to, in a sense, introduce yourself by telling us how is it that you got here and what are you doing here, Shawn?
So where is here? Right? So right now, 2 years ago, I took a role, the role that I'm in now at Clorox, which is leading the marketing technology group, which at the time the group was me. So I've hired a couple of other unicorns that have interesting stories as well. But when I think about sort of the path to where I'm at, like I couldn't have planned this path, right? There is no direct line, and it's probably what's made me good at what I do. Because if I had followed, I think I was having this discussion with Mr. Moss here, was if I had gone the traditional MBA marketing or IT role, I would have ended up in one of those one place. But so I think part of my journey was kind of interesting because I went to school and got a degree in cultural anthropology.
Any others?
Any anthropologists? Sociology? So I got this degree because I was like, I really want to understand people. I want to understand like how do people think and why do they group together and do certain things, right? And then I graduated from school. And I was like, all my buddies that had engineering degrees were calling me, yeah, I got a call from Microsoft. And I was like, yeah, I didn't get a call. And so I started painting houses and was like, I got to figure out what to do, what's next. But if we sort of back up to like 6th grade, I was sitting in a classroom and they were like, hey, we got these new things, they're called computers, and like, here's a book, learn how to like write software. So in 6th grade, I started writing software. So I wrote some really basic software programs.
That was an IT joke, guys.
Yeah. And then, sort of went through high school. It was like, oh, okay, I can do IBM classes, took other computing classes, but realized that, for me, it was like, that's not a career. Like, why would I want to go, like, computer was like a tool. It wasn't a career, right? I wanted to understand people. But then I started realizing that the world was changing and that this internet thing was going to turn into like how software got developed. And I was like, I think there's a lot of money to be made here. So I'm going to go back to school. So I went back to school and got a master's degree in IT. And started working at startups. I was living in LA at the time, working at startups, and just kind of maneuvered through this like, oh, you know what? Building software is there's a lot of anthropology in this. Like, how does the user use this tool? What's the consumer or sort of user experience, right? And so I quickly became the guy that was like, oh, like I can help do this, right? I understood graphic design, I understood the programming, and I understood the person that was using it. Right, so that was part of like the journey that I went through, and so I was at one startup and another startup, and kind of and part of the journey with startups as well was learning a lot about sort of how does tech, like sometimes you understand the technology or you understand where things are going, but you're way too early. So I had those scenarios where like, yeah, I built a social network that was mobile, and like. Yeah, nobody was ready for that, right? And it was like, this is 2004. I have the document that says, hey, one day people are going to want to walk into Starbucks and order their drink and cut the line. Starbucks wasn't ready for that 10 years ago either, but we've all figured that out, right? I mean, so there's been sort of this journey of sort of got me to a certain place, and then I went and moved to the Midwest. And started working at a Fortune 500 company and found out what corporate IT looked like. And then I was like, what have I done? Not only did I move somewhere where I need a snowblower, and the sun only shines half the year, I'm in corporate IT. And after a few years of building portals and doing the things that corporate IT people with web backgrounds do, I was like, I have to get out of here. And so I found the digital marketing department and was like, these people are my people. They care about consumers, which are people, right? And I was like, yeah, that's like the anthropology thing. I can like bring that, and they have to compete with the rest of the world. Like we're actually doing stuff in real time, like because corporate IT organizations can get like, oh, we got the Fortune 100 award for the most innovative technology ever. I'm like, SAP was not that innovative even 20 years ago, right? I mean, so anyway, I mean, so that's so the story kind of. So I moved into marketing, this sort of marketing technologist role at SC Johnson, and then found like servers under people's desks and people with like consumer databases like they were paying some guy that was like doing this stuff in their garage and getting charged like just incredible amounts of money, and I was like, what is going on here, right? I was like, you need my help. So I transformed a lot of that, realized that they were paying agencies tons of money to build custom websites for them, and so, was able to like lower cost, make things more efficient, all those things that corporate IT people do. But I got to a place where I was like, I think that I can actually add a lot of value as a marketer. Like and so I started bringing those ideas and ended up moving to Northwestern Mutual, where I became the head of digital marketing there, and really started transforming their mindset out of because it felt like they had hired a bunch of IT people to run like websites. Like they didn't really have digital marketers, and so it was like, okay, we need to think about what are we doing, and we live in a world. And then all of a sudden I left CPG, right? I was a company that sells like Windex to a company that has like massive amounts of data on their consumers, and I was like, oh my God, we can do amazing things with this. It's like, can somebody get me a report? And it was like 2 weeks later, I got a report on like our market, like on the people that actually buy the product. I was like, it took you 2 weeks to get me this? I was like, okay, we've got a lot of work to do, right? But started down that journey of like, we need to be able to figure out how to meet our consumer wherever they are and put that right message in front of them at the right time, and was really transforming the marketing organization there. And then I got a call from Clorox, and they said, would you like to live in California again? And I was like, yes. So, and they're like, we've got this crazy job that's called a marketing technologist. And I was like, yeah, that's who I am. Like I wrote that job description, right? Before people had a name for it, like I knew what that was, and so it ended up in this weird place where it was like the lady who ran digital marketing wanted the marketing technologist, but she didn't really have the budget to figure it out. So the CIO put the budget up, and so I ended up in IT embedded with marketing. And so the last 2 years, I've been on this journey figuring out how do marketing and IT talk? How do they take all these different, like fundamentally different cultures, and how do we make this thing work in a place that is, luckily for me, the day I showed up at Clorox, they said, hey, we've got this huge initiative, it's called Enhanced 3D, which was really about enhancing how we're going to how do we get more personalized and relevant information in front of our consumers, personalize our products. Like, we're going to go do this. And the fact that I showed up in a room in a corporate, 100-year-old company, and they had sales, marketing, R&D, IT, all sitting in one room, I was like, I hit the jackpot, right? Like, now, granted, it's a long journey, so we're going to part of what I want to share tonight is sort of what that journey has looked like on how we're transforming marketing, but how we're transforming IT at the same time.
So interesting.
Whew.
Is our time up?
You're right.
There was
That was
only-
better, that
there
was
was
better
only
than you
6
went.
That was what I was going to say. So
We've set the foundation.
with that as the
When's the
foundation,
movie coming?
Yeah.
what have
Life
we
is
won?
flash before
What is it that you're doing these days, and who are you doing it with?
So, I'm just thinking about. So what are we doing? So really, we've thought about how do we transform the marketing organization. That's really the work that I've been handed. It was like, okay, we need I'm going to draw. All right, I'm going to do some drawing.
Yeah.
So,
You used to be a professor, I understand.
yes,
It's so analog.
it is. That's why it's retro, baby. So, I call this the 9-box. But a lot of people call it the 9-block at work, but I won't correct them. So this was a CPG world, and probably most of the world was. This is where we did marketing. It was mass marketing, and it was very manual. We created TV spots. There was 3 places we marketed, and there were like 3 channels. We did TV, and there were 3 channels we did it on. Right. So this is the world that Clorox has lived in, and S.C. Johnson lived in, and everywhere else that it still lives in, right? There's probably still it's still 80% of what we do. But it was like, well, okay, so we want to get better, we want to get more personalized, we want to get more relevant, but we live in this world now where we've got massive fragmentation, right? So we've got all these different channels, right? We've got mobile apps, TV, social media, it goes on and on. We've got all these different devices we're trying to market on. We've got all these different ways in which I can purchase. The retailer has changed dramatically, and I'm at Clorox, so I've got like 12 different brands that have totally different customers, consumers, right? So, okay, great. So we want to get more targeted. Great. And we want, or maybe we want to someday imagine that we can get to this one-to-one marketing space, right? And so you start going, okay, and then well, I don't think we're going to do this thing real well if we keep doing it manually. So maybe we need to add some automation. And then there's this like data science thing, and so maybe we could get predictive, right? We get predictive, and we can like do machine learning. And you're like, okay, that's great. Well, there's one. This gets more complex, and this is where I lose. But we think about this. It's like, well, where we really lived in this sort of single channel world, right? So yeah, we can get more targeted, like on one channel, right? So like, yeah, I got email and I know who those people are, so I put them in like 3 different categories. I got an engagement score, and I can say, oh, well, I'm gonna talk to these advocates different than these people. But it's not really getting into lifestyle, and it's not really thinking about the consumer journey as they go from, well, they saw my banner ad, but they didn't click on it. We know that nobody clicks on banner ads. But then they went to Google and they searched for my product, and then they ended up on my website, and then they read some of my content, but they didn't click the button that says sign up for email, right? Do I know any of that? Yeah, I have all that data in 5 different places, and 5 different teams own it. So I have no idea how to figure that out, right? So that's part of the problem we're in. But so we want to get to this multi-channel space, and and then there's this word that people like to use, so I use it too, omni-channel, right? So we've been on this journey where we went from here and we started doing test and learns in this space. This doesn't scale. You can't do one-to-one marketing with all of America, and then parts of the rest of the world. So this does not scale. No scale. So it's like, well, maybe we need to move up here. So we're right now we're doing pilots in this space where we've purchased different technology. Then the question is do we go here? Do we go here? And is this science fiction? Right? Like, if it's omni-channel, it's science fiction. The reason we believe this is real is because it's what Facebook does to us every day. Facebook actually does this one-to-one, highly predictive marketing. It's just they own the channel. It's one channel, and they own it, and they have all the data, and we've offered all the data to them, and they're like, thank you. Right? I will sell this to marketers. So this is part of the journey we've been on. So this is the framework that we're thinking about. How do we start to move through this process, right? I'm going to quickly draw one other picture and give you a different view of what this now looks like for us. So we need to identify. We need to engage. And then we need to get analytics. And this thing goes, that informs this, that informs this. And so in here, we want this 360 view of the consumer. So we need this, we need to do audience management. Here, we need to do personalization. And we need to do this like cross-channel orchestration. And here we need to do insights. Figure out measurement. And then we need to do data science. This is what Clorox pays me to do.
Draw boxes.
So we're trying to figure out how the heck to do this. And we're on a journey on figuring out, well, where do I start? Here? Because I probably need to figure it, I need to figure out the audience. If I want to put the right message in front of the right consumer at the right time on the right device, well, I need to start with figuring out who the right audience is. So anyway, this is a lot of the work that I'm doing, and I'm doing this with marketers, data scientists, global insights, market research, agency folks, external vendors, you name it. We're all trying to figure this thing out. And we all have different points of view. We all own different parts of this, and it's a circus, but it's my circus.
So I want to ask you about that circus. So are you are the circus leader? Do you have anybody else with you in the tent at this point?
Mm-hmm. So I think I mentioned this earlier. So I've hired a couple of folks on my team specifically. But I think when I look around at the team that I now have, some of those people report directly to me, right? I hired them and they have specific roles, but I think we really, and I start to look around, there's people sort of in this organization that say, well, I'm part of the MarTech group, right? So I've got folks that sit in IT that are like architects. And so we got a guy that's like from Sapient Nitro, who's a MarTech guy, right? But he sits in IT. He's like square in IT. Like he doesn't even just support marketing. He supports sales, but he's I work with this guy every day, right? And then I've got folks over in the media team who spend their whole day thinking about this audience management thing, and like how do I build audiences? And then I've got folks over in Global Insights that are like, hey, I need to figure out how to get, like we're running all this cool new media stuff, but I have no idea whether it's working. So I need you to help me get all this data that's in this data management platform and dump it into some big data thingy so I get this data science guy that I hired so I can keep him busy so he doesn't quit. It's like that's really that's the story, right? I mean, it's like we're moving at the speed of marketing, right? I mean, it's like we're just going, and IT's, and then so this is that place where marketing is like, hey, I just hired a data scientist, awesome. Like now we just need to build something so that data scientist can do something, right? Like and not do it on his laptop. So we're so there's this constant sort of pull and push on both sides. But I feel like my team, my core team, like we're the translators, right? So we're able to actually sit in a marketing meeting and have a conversation and fully understand. And in some spaces, we're actually driving the transformation, right? It's like, hey, we need requirements so we can why don't you build some technology for us? It's like, well, give me the requirements I need. What do you want to do 2 years from now? I was like, I don't know what I want to do 2 months from now. Right? It's like, I want to do what I do right now, just better. Like, that's the answer, right? And it's like, okay, well, I think I know what you want to do, but I need to engage with you and have you sort of work through it with me so I'm not telling it to you, you're telling it back to me. So we went out and built this whole brand journey strategy and this consumer experience mapping framework, not because we wanted to go be brand managers, but because I needed those boxes to be filled in so I could be, what technology and what data enables this thing to happen, right? So we started with the bottom boxes and then started sitting down with brand managers and go, hey, fill this box in for me. Like, what does this consumer want to do? And that's a little bit of what we're going to do later.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shawn, first of all, you're among friends, so we all think whatever you say is right. No one's got knives here, I don't think, right? And you have a room full of marketers. So what would you like to say to the marketers of America that would help them be better and help you to make them better?
So, I think that the marketing space is changing so fast that it's hard for it's hard for all of us to sort of keep up on, like, okay, I every day I've got to come in and I keep doing what I'm doing, and then I have to keep figuring out how to do it different. Like, I have to, like, do it a little bit better tomorrow, while we're also being asked to, like, transform everything we're doing, right? So it's like we've got like 5 planes in the air, and we're working on all of them. We're rebuilding them in the air, right? And we don't even know where we're going to land, right? I mean, that's the space that we're in, and I think that what I see is a lot of IT folks, they don't get that. They have like one answer for sort of, well, tell me what you want and I'll build it for you, right? And it's no, like I think find technologists, right, that will get in the plane with you, right? So, but then you got to trust them to, like, help build the plane, right? So I think there's sort of that piece, and I think that what that means is that the marketers also, like, we need to start having discussions about, like, understanding the data, right? Not understanding data schemas and databases, but, like, what's the value of data, right? And that's something else we're going to talk about today, right? Because marketers have been doing this for a long time. They've been doing it a lot longer. The data thing, marketers have been doing this for a long time. It's like starting to think about, well, wow, what data can I get? And how do I connect this data to that thing so that I can do, like, what can I do with it, right? So I think that there's this need for marketers to get a lot deeper in understanding the data that will really enable them to create amazing consumer experiences. And then trusting, so bringing those technologists in that can help make that real for you. So I think that is probably one of the challenges that we have as marketing organizations, right? And especially I think when you go into a lot of large corporations, it's like, yeah, where's that IT guy, right? Like, yeah, sign me up. Like, where is he, right? And so it's that's part of this conversation about where IT, like marketers need to go to the CIO and tell the CIO, my job is to grow this company. Your job is to help me do that, right? So this is what I need. I need somebody who's going to get in the plane with me, figure it out as we go, not be so damn worried about whether the security or if there's stability. Because if somebody hacks into my website, well, it's already public. We want consumers to see what's on the website, right?
Hack this site.
Yes, please come look at my website, right? I mean, what we don't want is someone hacking the website and putting Brita sucks, right? That's what we don't want. So we need a certain level. We don't need the security that HR has, because nobody wants, right? We want IT to manage our paycheck that way. We do want to get paid, and we want our paycheck to show up every week or every other week, right? But so we need that sort of agility. And so it's like, okay, I get it, the CIO, but I need a 2-speed IT, or what I like to call bimodal, right? Where's the agile guy? Get some of those guys that work at startups, right? That do this continuous improvement, Scrum, Agile thing. That's the IT guy I want. I want that guy. And then keep those other guys that, like, make sure that we don't get hacked. Yeah, great. But I need to merge these two things together, and I need you, like I need the CMO to get the CIO to like own that, right? So we've got to figure out that story, right? And we can't have this CIO and CMO don't get along together. It's like neither one of them are going to be around if they don't figure out how to work together.